Good morning. How is everybody? Before I start the vlog, the point of the vlog, I don't have much, verve, is that the word this morning, to do a video, so I may not end up sharing this. We'll see how it progresses. Before I start on the actual topic, which is part B of my last vlog, a really important part I've come to realise, one I didn't have much or put much emphasis on or thought to, because I thought I was onto the primary issue, I'm going to share today. And I'll try not to go on too long. I could talk about my thoughts about it. And that's what it is. It's my thoughts about it based on my education and thinking about it and trial and erroring it and doing little movements and stuff to see if it's true. And I think it would be. It can only be the case, to be honest. But you never hear of it. Nobody ever talks of it. I don't know where you would go to find this information out in layman's terms. And for most of us, it could remain a big mystery. And for those of us who have back issues, we can suffer our whole lives because of this lack of information, readily accessible, pretty straightforward information, and important anyway. Before I go on, I just want to say, here I am again, doing the barefoot. And let me say on that, I'm doing barefoot because I'm starting to get sore feet. But over the last few days, I feel as if my right foot, which was the main offender, I feel my right foot is starting to improve. The pain is starting to ease. The discomfort's starting to ease in my right foot. Now, I don't want to speak prematurely about it and get too happy about it, but that seems to be what's happening. It's quite slow, but yeah, interesting. Anyway, I won't dwell on that. And the other thing I wanted to say was, that's what it was. Doing what I'm doing right now is a really important mental health. Forget physical. It's a really important mental health thing to do, in my opinion. Since doing this, what do we do it? At least twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. Since doing it, I'm starting to notice wildlife more, birds more, looking up, looking around. Last night, a big flock of pelicans flew directly over my place in the afternoon sun. And the afternoon sun, was on their underbodies as they flew over, and I've stopped what I was doing and just admired it. And I think that's the essence of mental health. Noticing nature and really trying to become part of it as much as we can. Just such a nice place to be. And I'm sure you'd have all the smells coming off the vegetation and stuff. Nothing that's obvious, but it'd all be there. Absorbing all of that. Just absorbing nutrients and certain things through my feet. My big brother has warned me about catching germs, not germs specifically, but bacteria, he specified. Is that a word? He specified. So I'm going to take precautions in regards to that, of course, and respecting his opinion on that. But generally, we're organisms and we need to absorb shit. I'm starting to go off on a big tangent here, so I won't go on about that. You get my point. Today's topic is basically part B to the first one, which was all about the arse muscles. I'll just use layman's terms. Today's topic is about the stomach muscles. Remember in the first video I mentioned lower cross? Lower cross is a condition where the stomach muscles and the arse muscles become weak. and the back muscles and the front hip muscles become tight. And that creates a combination of core weakness. And that core weakness can lead to real serious problems, especially under load if you're lifting things or working intensely, this, that, the other. I reckon a lot of us would have it because unless we are physical, athletic people, which, you know, most of us, let's be honest, aren't, the muscles start to waste away. And they start to tighten up because we're not stretching like athletes would stretch. Just in sheer body movements alone they'd be stretching, but they pre-stretch and after train stretch as well. If you're not athletic, if you're not playing a sport, none of us are doing any of that, and the muscles are wasting away, getting weaker in the spots I just mentioned and getting tighter in the spots I just mentioned, as far as, you know, the hip area goes. I'm trying to bring some clarity to that, and here I am going on and dragging this out, and I'll try not to do that. I guess I just got sidetracked with the bridge back there, and to be honest, my train of thought's not real clear. Doing this is a good idea, but anyway, I just want to get it out there. So what we're talking about today is the importance of the stomach muscles. They're an opposing force slash support for the arse muscles. Why? Because the analogy I've come up with is, I might swap hands with this phone. The analogy I've come up with is, it's all about, this lower cross is all about hip stability and workability and hip function, hip strength, hip maneuverability. All of that equates to proper body mechanics as far as mobilization goes, safe, painless mobilization. Come on. So, the stomach muscles are super important, I've come to realize. And the best analogy I've got is using a bucket as the analogy. And that bucket, full of water or half full of water, it doesn't really matter. Well, I guess it does. If the bucket's full of water, that's representing an overweight person. If the bucket's half full of water, that's representing a normal size or normal weighted person. And if the bucket's a quarter empty, that's representing somebody that's quite lightweight, possibly underweight. And so keep that in mind when I describe the functions of the muscles, because they've got to maneuver the excess water or the less water. Alright, just trying to get some clarity of thought, which isn't real good today. In short, I'm not going to drag it on. In short, the stomach muscles are really important when we're bending over, when we're standing up, when we're doing anything. They're just as important as the glute muscles or the arse muscles that I was talking about in my last vlog. They support each other. It's not all about just the glute muscles. The stomach muscles, I'm realizing now, are just as important, and I've been doing little experiments and I'm like, oh wow, okay. And see, we don't notice it. The reality is we don't notice these little tweaks unless we turn our mind to it, and we really not going to turn our mind to it unless somebody suggests it. And then you can do your own little experiments like I've been doing. And it's only just been, stay there. Come here. Somebody with some little puppies. Come here. Morning, mate. Pretty good. Come here. They're nice dogs. Look at them. Come here, love. So, what am I trying to say? Like I said to you, my train of thought's real bad. Might have had something to do. It might have something to do with the beers last night. And the early morning wake up and walk. Come here. Pause again. Okay, yeah, so I'll go through the motions. when we're bending over, like I said, we tense the glutes, don't we? And we lower ourselves down with tension on those glutes, not tension on the back. Right, established. But what we're also doing is tensing the stomach muscles, especially the lower stomach muscles. Ignore that. The lower stomach muscles. Why the lower stomach muscles? Because what we're trying to do is manipulate the pelvis. We're trying to support the pelvis when we go down. And by keeping tension on the stomach muscles, by supporting that pelvis, we're not letting the pelvis drop too far. If we don't tense our stomach muscles and only tense our glute muscles when we bend over, what happens is, and you can do it yourself, I'll try and set up a camera and do the examples. What happens is, when we bend over, if we're not tensing those abdomen muscles, only the arse muscles, what happens is the pelvis tilts too far. Well, not too far, it can only tilt so far, but it tilts beyond where we need it to go, which I guess puts, well, I won't go there, but what it's doing is it's tilting further forward than we need it to, which means it's harder for the glute muscles to gather that pelvis up. See, everything sits on the pelvis. The upper torso sits on the pelvis. The pelvis is responsible for good posture. If the pelvis isn't in the neutral, correct position, which is upright, like I said in the last video, the torso's in a, they call it a flexed position, to whatever degree the pelvis is tilted or stays tilted forward. So the goal for correct posture, mobility, bending forward, coming back, is sensible, for lack of a better word, or appropriate pelvic positioning. And to get that, we can't just leave it up to the arse muscles and the back muscles. We've got to support it from the front with the stomach muscles. Imagine that bucket of water with strings attached to the front of the bucket and strings attached to the back of the bucket representing your back muscles. The strings at the front of the bucket are representing your stomach muscles, and then some more strings at the back of the bucket going down to the ground representing your arse muscles and your leg muscles. That's the analogy I was trying to explain before but got sidetracked. So imagine the bucket is kind of like a puppet on a string and being manipulated by those strings. The strings at the front of the bucket that's got water in it, varying degrees of water, are your abdominal muscles. And the strings at the back of the bucket on the top are your back muscles, and the strings at the back of the bucket going down attached to the ground, like your feet are attached to the ground, are your arse muscles and the back of your leg muscles. You pull the, to make the bucket come up, let's say the bucket's in a tilted forward position, to make it come up, you're going to pull those front strings, aren't you? And you're going to pull those back strings to the ground. That's how you're going to bring that bucket back into a neutral position, or your pelvis. Remember, the bucket's an analogy. I don't want to go into the back muscles just yet because it's more complicated to explain in regards to the back muscles aiding the stomach muscles. And I don't have all this written down and in perfect logical order. Let me throw in that the stomach muscles, which I guess I should have started off with earlier, the stomach muscles are attached in two spots generally, and that is attached to the bottom of your ribs like a string. Imagine you've got a string tied to the bottom of your ribs, and then they drop all the way down to your pelvic bone, which is the most frontal lower part of the pelvis. The pelvic bone is where our pubic hairs are. And if you want to feel it, what you do is you lay on your back and go to where your pubic hairs are, and you'll feel a bone there. Right? Lay on your back, because everything will fall away from the bone and you can readily access it easier if you're a little bit overweight like I am. So do that and feel it. And leave your hand or push your fingers into that pelvic bone gently. Now tense your stomach. You won't feel any movement. But what you do is you slide your finger or your hand up a little bit to the top of that pelvic bone until the bone falls away. Put your finger there, now tense your stomach. You'll feel the stomach, the fingers being pushed away by a muscle being tensed, and that's because the stomach muscles are attaching to that spot, and they run all the way up to the bottom of your ribs. So they attach to the bottom of the ribs, and they run all the way down, and they attach to your pubic bone. And the pubic bone is the front of the bucket. Your hip is the bucket, and the pubic bone is the front of the bucket. Even though it's the bottom of the bucket, it's still the front of the bucket. In the analogy of the strings to the bucket, you can run the strings that are at the front of the bucket down to the bottom of the bucket if you like. I guess that's more accurate. So it's important when we're bending over, or when we're standing up, or when we're sitting down, especially to stand up, this is what I want to get into, is that we're concentrating on the stomach muscles. So these are the second part to the glute muscle activation. We've now got to start activating the stomach muscles. And specifically, I think it's the lower part of the stomach muscles. I'll try and show some stomach exercises down here. Quite simple. One in specific I'll show. It's my idea or design of a stomach exercise. Maybe it's a thing, maybe it's not. Remember, I'm not an expert. I've just got a diploma in remedial massage therapy, which isn't a very intense kind of a thing, but it is something. It was a year full time. And these are all my, concocted ideas, to be honest. But they're logical concocted ideas based on education and insight and a lot of thought, because I've suffered badly with back issues. Just waiting for people to go away with their dogs. Come here, love. So, come here. Good girl. So so that's that. Now, let me say this. Muscles can only contract. They can't pull like a rubber band. They can stretch a little bit over time. You've got to stretch them, but a muscle has a certain length. And with practice of stretching, you can increase that a little bit. But I mean, in general, they're not flexible things. Their job is to contract. Right? That's it. When you operate your muscle, it contracts. So when you tense your stomach muscles, which is the point of this video, you're grabbing the front of your pelvis in essence, and you're supporting it like you would be if you were to grab the front of a bucket. So by you tensing your stomach, but not just blindly the stomach, it's concentrating on the lower abs, in my opinion. What we want to do is we want to really grab the pelvis with our ribs. That's what you're doing. In essence, you're grabbing the pelvis with your ribs via the muscle. Think of it even as a hand. If you could take your hand and grab the front of your pelvis and pull it up and walk around supporting your pelvis, it's a similar thing. But we don't have to do that. The muscles are there to do it for us if we think about it and if we activate it. Remember, most of us aren't athletic, and these muscles get weak and waste away. We're not doing sit-ups, we're not playing tennis and moving, using stomach stuff. We're just walking around leading ordinary lives, offices, driving cars, whatever. So I think over time these muscles waste away, and then we develop problems like I have. So this video is really for anybody that has developed problems or has got problems. And I know I'm dragging it out a little bit, but really it's a long, in-depth explanation, and I'm trying to make it as brief as I can. And I'll do that now. I'll just try and focus my thought. So just imagine that. When we're bending over, we want to grab, imagine you're doing it with your hand, but actually you're doing it with your muscles. We want to grab the front of our pelvis, and we want to control its downward motion. We don't want to let it just drop. And I've done a little experiment where I turned off my stomach and I just lowered with my abs, like I think I might have been doing in the last video. No, sorry. I tensed the abs, I tensed the stomach muscles and I tensed the arse muscles, and I lowered myself forward, right, till I was in this position with the stomach tense, and then I let the stomach go, and I could feel the pelvis rock forward even more. So I concluded that if I'm going to do that, it's harder for me to get back up because I've let the pelvis go further than it had to go. So for me to climb back up, it's more strain on the back, on the glutes to get back up. And the pelvis may not, because of that, the pelvis may still not come up properly into that good ideal position, which is nice and straight. See, a good straight pelvis, I don't know if straight's the word, straight's not the medical term. A well-positioned pelvis in the upright position is responsible for good posture. Well, it would be. There's nothing else that could be. Again, this is all my own thinking. And to get that good posture, we've got to have that pelvis in the right position, because the spine sits into the back of the pelvis. The spine is fused. The bottom of the spine is fused into the back of the pelvis. So whatever position the pelvis is in, that's going to affect the spine, and the spine is our posture. The spine is our everything. It's our movement, it's our nervous system, it's everything. So a well-positioned and a well-controlled pelvis is everything when it comes to mobility, quality of life, no back pain, etc. I mean, those muscles are there for a reason. Stomach muscles aren't just there so we can do sit-ups, are they? Sit-ups are an exercise designed to strengthen the muscles for improved body mechanics, and bending over is body mechanics, as I'm doing it now. So that's what it is. We've got to, when we go to bend over, we've got to lock those stomach muscles in down the bottom. We've got to imagine you're grabbing them with your hand, but it's actually your stomach muscles. You're going to grab the front of that pelvis. I'll try and attach a picture of the pelvis and of the pubic bone in particular, so you can visualize it. It actually looks like it's a handle-shaped thing. There she goes. So I forgot what I was saying. When we bend over, we want to grab. Just picture yourself grabbing that pubic bone with the stomach muscles down the bottom. You're going to grab it. You're not going to pull it up. You're just going to tense it and control the lowering of the pelvis with the glute muscles, with the arse muscles. So you're controlling the front of the bucket, your pelvis, and you're controlling the back of the bucket as well with your arse muscles. So you're controlling the front of the bucket when you tilt the bucket or the pelvis with the stomach muscles. You're controlling it, right? And you're controlling the back of the bucket, your pelvis, with the arse muscles and the back muscles. Maybe the back muscles will come into another video. I won't have time in this one because they're important too. I'll quickly say, when we bend over, right, controlling those stomach muscles, tensing those stomach muscles, hence controlling the front of the pelvis, having control of that pelvis. When we come up, the back muscles would be, oh shush, come here. When we come up, the glute muscles are pulling us up, and the stomach muscles are grabbing the front of the pelvis and pulling us up. And I'm pretty sure the back muscles, well, I know now, well, I'm sure too, the shoulders are acting like a lever. You've locked the ribs into the pelvis, and now the weight of the shoulders and the muscles in the shoulders and the glutes are pulling that pelvis up. I mean, come here. The pelvis has got to be pulled up by something, and you're not pulling it up with a rope, are you? You're pulling it up with your own body, and your own body is the shoulders, the weight and the momentum and the leverage your shoulders would have on that pelvis. Good morning. How are you? Good girl. Stay there. So that's another video, really, if I ever do it. But you've locked the front of the pelvis in with the ribs. You've locked the front of the pelvis in with the muscle that's attached to the ribs and the pelvis. how's it going to come up? It's going to come up with your body. Your shoulders are what's going to bring the pelvis up if the muscle is locked into the pelvis. If it's not, well, the shoulders are going to come away from the pelvis and the pelvis is going to stay down further. So really, in essence, you're locking the ribs into the pelvis, and the shoulders, the weight and the momentum and the leverage from the shoulders, not so much the weight, well, it's the weight going back, I guess. It's more so the leverage and the momentum of the shoulders, which are being pulled by the back. That's what's pulling your pelvis up. And really, you need to look at photos and stuff, or pictures, I should say, of the muscles and the bones of the skeletal body. But that's how it works. One important thing I want to say, and this is something that's eluded me for the last 2 years. I've had trouble standing up from a seated position. One of the main points of this video, which I suppose maybe I should have mentioned at the beginning, the main point of this video was to try and assist people in standing from a couch or from a chair. I know that I do it, and I know some people around me do it. Come here. I think it's a common thing in the West, because our muscles are probably turned off. These muscles I've been describing are probably turned off compared to Asian countries, where they do a lot of squatting using their own body muscles for... come here! I better walk on. Using their muscles are getting stretched, and they're supporting their body much better than we do with their muscles. And so the point of this video was to try and give a hack, if you will, to standing up from a seated position, because for me, standing up was becoming a problem. And I initially thought, and I was telling people even, use your legs more, use your legs when you go to stand up. We're going to use the legs naturally. There's no getting away from it or getting around it. So there's no point in focusing on the legs. And if anything, if you just use the legs, what happens is when you're seated, when you sat down, if you use the legs, it can push you forward even more. I actually saw that happen. So it's not about the legs. It's about the stomach muscles and the glutes, of course, but it's hard to get the glutes doing much from a seated position because of the angle of, you're sat down. It's hard to get the poor little glutes alone to start that movement. I think the movement starts with the stomach muscles. All right, go back to the handle idea. When you've sat down on a couch, what we're doing in essence, I think, is we're grabbing, picture somebody else even, or if you picture your own hand, grabbing your pelvis while you're sat down on the couch. It's if you look at the pelvis, it's sort of a hollowed out shape, and the pelvic bone is kind of like a handle. So I picture it like reaching down, and somebody, whether it's you, it is you, but even picture somebody else doing it if you like, reaching over your shoulders and grabbing this handle, which is your pelvic bone, and from the seated position pulling it up and getting it to pull up like the string on the front of the bucket, the top of the bucket or the very bottom of the bucket. Picture the string being pulled up. If you did that, if you pulled that string, what's it going to do? It's going to pull the bucket into a neutral position. And what's going to help it is the string at the back pulling the bucket down, while the front of the bucket's being pulled up. The string at the back, which is your ass muscles, is pulling the bucket down. Do you understand what I mean with that analogy? I hope it's clear. And the different amount of water in the bucket is a reference to whether you're overweight or medium weight. I'm overweight. And these things are more, pending for people that are overweight and don't exercise like me. So that's the big thing. It's about when you go to sit down, tense the lower stomach muscles to sit down. the lower stomach muscles that are attached to that handle, which is the pelvic bone. Then when you go to stand up, tense those stomach muscles. And I've started doing that, and I've pictured the hand. And I tell you, it's like a little spring has been activated at the front of my body. Come here. I'll catch up to her. It's like a little spring's been activated now, and it's a real big, it's like, oh fuck, that was easy. It's really made the standing up from a seated position much easier. And obviously do it before you sit down. I mean, do it before you go to stand up. And do it as you're sitting down. You're tensing that pelvis, you're controlling the movement of the pelvis from the front as well as the back. But it's not just from the back alone, like I made out in the first video. It's also about from the front, which is the stomach muscles. They've got to be attached firmly. Well, they are attached to the ribs, but they've got to be tensed firmly, especially down the lower part. And there's a place over there I might be able to do the exercise I'm talking about. Fuck, I seem to be going on and on with this, and it's probably because it's not structured properly. I was going to sit down and write out all the points, but that's another job. So I guess there's videos for anybody that's not in a particular rush. What was I saying? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just start picturing. I'll attach some photos of the stomach muscles, and just realize, that's another thing I was going to say, realize that that muscles attach to point A and point B, right? Wherever it is on the body, and their job is to contract and pull that bone either to that bone or pull the bones together. The job of a muscle is to contract and pull muscles together. The job of muscles is to contract and pull bones together, whether it be your bicep or whether it be anything. That's what a muscle does. It attaches, in this case, to the bottom of the ribs. That's where they start. There's different layers of stomach muscles. I'm just generalizing. I don't want to sound too confusing. But we're talking about the rectus abdominis. In this case, they attach to the bottom of the ribs and the top of the pubic bone. Here, down to here. There's other muscles in underneath them, transverse abdominis and stuff. And they might even be the ones that are really responsible for what I'm talking about. But in general, I'm just trying to generalize. Okay, so because we're not athletic, because we're not working, we have to start using our minds to activate these weak muscles. And that's what they would be. They would be weak if we're not doing physical work or physical activity. But knowing why and how to use the muscles, which is the point of this video, is what's needed to do it. If you go to a physio and they say, now do these exercises, a lot of us don't, because we don't know why. Because the people I've seen don't sort of spell it out like I am. If it's spelled out or explained as to why and how it works, I know it helps us visualize what we need to do and why. And I've tried to simplify it as much as I can. I'm probably going to post this video because, it's quite involved. And there's other stuff I want to talk about. The next vlog's going to be about what would you say it is? How to live a better quality of life mentally. It's something that I've started consciously doing. It's not just one thing, it's a few things, but I've given it some attention and I'm getting really, really good results, which again is great for mental health. For me, it's all about having good mental health. I think that's the secret to a happy life, is good mental health. Hence the hang up with music and stuff like that. Because mental health is an absolute necessity for a quality life. isn't it? Let's be honest. There is nothing else other than good mental health. And that's why walking parks is really important. I've only just started to realise lately. You know, it started out as, oh, I'll take her for a walk, she wants to go, I should do it, to now I realise of it, because in our everyday lives we don't get in touch with nature, do we? It's off to work, back home, cook dinner. On the weekend maybe we'll go somewhere, or will we stay in and watch TV or whatever, you know what I mean, or stay around the house. But getting out into nature is really, really important. Now I might be able to show this stomach muscle thing. Gotta lay on this dirty floor, the grass is too wet. Not really ideal because the barbecue's in the road. What it is we've all heard of crunches, okay? Which is this. But I'm not talking about crunches. The one I think we should be doing is, well, this, anything to do with the lower stomach we want to exercise. But the one I was thinking of was this. You can't even see me do it, but what I'm doing is I'm lifting the pelvis up off the ground by only using my stomach muscles, and I'm holding it there, letting it go gently. Then another one. I mean, it doesn't get much easier. But picture, while you're doing it, picture that string that's attached to the pubic bone and comes up and attaches to the bottom of the ribs. Picture that you're pulling that string from the bottom. You're grabbing it at the pelvic bone and you're pulling it up towards the ribs. That's the motion we're going to be making when we're standing up. Especially when we're standing up. It's all about the bottom part of the string. That's what we want to activate, and it's a muscle that's not usually activated. Now you can bring it up and hold it for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, half a minute, or just pick it up, lower it down, pick it up, lower it down. That's that. And just do 5 starting out. Doesn't have to be 50. Another one is leg raises. Again, it's lifting the bottom of that pelvis up. What you want to do is concentrate on the stomach with this exercise. Go on. You want to concentrate using the stomach to lift these legs. Try not to lift the legs, because there's muscles that'll do that. You want to use the stomach, and you may not even be able to get the legs up very far. That's okay. Maybe that's what it is. Don't lift the legs high, because you can't if you just use the stomach. If you just use the stomach, your legs can only come to there. So that's the harder version of it, is getting the legs to leave the ground. I've got my hands underneath. You'll find the spot for them. It's a supportive role they're playing. So we're not talking about leg raises actually. We're talking about just either move the pelvis forward like I am and holding it, or getting the legs to leave the ground. That's a lot harder, and I can really feel it. But you know what? It feels good. It feels good, especially because we know what we're training for. We're training for an improved quality of life via improved body movement, body mechanics, and getting rid of lower back pain. See that? I'll throw this in. See, that's a squat. I think they call them Asian squats. That's a good posture to be able to complete. The heels are attached to the ground. Look how overweight I am. I've really got to do something about it. But I think too much beer creates too much hunger, and it throws your whole diet out. When I get off the grog, I find my appetite just normalises. But as a beer drinker, the next day I'm hungrier than I would be normally. So I've got to really do something about it. It's just hard because it's an addiction, like a lot of things. Anyway, so that's it. I'm going to sign off. I will press pause and just get some clarity of thought to see if there's anything else I've got to include, because the last video I left some important stuff out. There was also, let me say, there was also a mistake. There was a couple, not serious mistakes, but the last video I spoke about the glute muscles and how they work. Just trying to think. I spoke about how the glute muscles work when you're leaning forward, because that's what they do, they contract when you're leaning forward. That I misspoke. I should have said, and I meant to say, that's what happens when you're standing up. The glute muscles contract. When you're down here, the glute muscles aren't contracting. They're only contracting as I go to stand. They're contracting and they're pulling the back of my hip back towards my legs. And now we know after this video that the stomach muscles are supporting that movement by grabbing the front of the pelvis and pulling it up, while the arse muscles are pulling the back of the pelvis back, or the bucket back. The stomach muscles are pulling the front of the bucket or the pelvis back. Or should I say, the front of the pelvis or the bucket back. Okay, they're working together. If you were going to tip a bucket, you wouldn't do it with one hand. You'd do it with two. You'd grab the back of the bucket and the front of the bucket, and you would manipulate the bucket with two hands, either side of it, depending on what you wanted to do with that bucket and how far you wanted it to go. So point is, super important that we support the pelvis with the front muscles, the front stomach muscles, when you're doing anything. Even when you're standing, we want to have tension in the glutes, we want to have tension in the front stomach muscles, and that'll create good posture. Everything else will fall into place if the pelvis is being manipulated correctly and supported during movement, especially extreme movements. All right? So that's it. I can't think of anything else. There probably is other stuff that I've left out. I've rambled for a while now. And again, hopefully this is helpful to somebody. I mean, if I don't say this stuff, it goes unsaid. Time passes, I don't do it. And I think it's worth a mention. I don't think you're going to hear this from anywhere else. And like I say, don't take it as gospel. Is analogy the word? But I mean, there can be no other way. Muscles contract, the muscles are there, they can only contract, and that's what they're doing in those movements I've just described. When I sit down here, what I'm doing, if I go to stand up, it used to be about the legs. Everybody use your legs more, but if you just use the legs and nothing else, you'd propel yourself forward. And I saw somebody do that, and I'm like, oh, why are they doing that? Why is that? And now I've come to realize why. So then I moved on to the glutes, thinking, no, it's all about the glutes, but a position like this is a lot of load for the glutes to be able to spring from. They need assistance, and they're getting that assistance from the hand down here that's grabbing the pelvic bone or the handle and pulling it up. And I'm going to do it now on video. I can't zoom out anymore. That hand, as we know, is the stomach muscles. But I'm going to put my hand there to make it obvious. But you and I know it's the stomach muscles that are attached to here and down to the handle there, what's going to pull it up. But they can't just pull the pelvic bone up. What is actually pulling up the pelvic bone are your shoulders. And what's behind your shoulders? Your back muscles. So that's another video. But the leverage from your shoulders that are being leveraged by your back muscles is what's going to pull your pelvis up. But it's not going to pull it up effectively into a proper nice position if you don't activate your stomach muscles. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to reach down with my stomach muscles, and let's just pretend this is my stomach muscles, and I'm going to pull myself up like a big string. What's pulling it up is the shoulders. Right? Lowering down that string at the front too, with the shoulders, with good stability. And all of this happens if you're athletic, if you play sports. You know, if you do anything physical, all these muscles would get a little run. But for most of us, we're not. And then we can develop problems, especially as we go through life and get older. So I think it's important to use them mentally and knowing why to, and then you will. Okay? And doing little exercises is important damn it, there's another exercise, not an exercise, a stretch, that's super important because it's to do with lower cross. See, I mean, I could do another video, but I may not, so I'll just throw all the information in there now. The other one is two stretching things, and that is this one. We want to stretch the front of the hip, because if the front of the hip gets tight like it does in most of us, then we have a pelvis that's locked forward by these tight muscles that are here. It's called the rectus femoris muscle. It's the main offender. It attaches to the bottom of the hip. Because we sit and we drive and we watch TV, these muscles don't get stretched, and they get shorter. Muscles get shorter over time if they don't get stretched or used. They get shorter and they pull the pelvis forward. What we've got to do is stretch them. And this one here is important. You'd put something soft under your knee. And what you want to do is enjoy this. You're stretching this muscle here. It attaches to the front of the hip and it goes all the way down to your kneecap. Gently. You can get cork blocks, actually. They're the best from Big W or the fitness shops. And you just sit there and you enjoy the stretch and you let it go a little bit more, a little bit more. Your job right now is to relax that muscle. It's not going to stretch if you don't let it go and relax it. Its instinct is going to be to stay tense and protect. But you've got to override that and let it go. See how I'm slowly getting more forward over time? And a little trick you can do is, in the stretch, you can tense that muscle as if to push your knee out that way. Not with all your effort, just with a little bit of effort. Push the knee out that way. You're not going to push the knee, but you're tensing the muscle as if you're going to do that. Do that for 7 seconds, gently. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then let that pressure off the muscle, and you'll find you'll get a deeper stretch. That's a physiotherapist technique, or a remedial massage, a remedial therapy technique, like I do. And you can do that up to 3 times. Don't force it, don't rush it, it'll happen over time. So what we're doing by doing that is we're stretching the front of the hip, which is important to get proper pelvic manipulation and posture. If you do all the stuff I've said in the front of this video, but those muscles remain tight, you're never going to be able to have that ideal pelvic position. And the other one is stretching the back muscles. What I like to do is find a pole, and I grab the pole and I just sit on the pole. What we're doing is we're stretching these back muscles, and you can gently, slowly, I'm just rushing through it all, and what happens is the weight of the body over time, the muscles start to let go. When you're stretching, the point is you've got to let the muscles go. Don't hold on to the tension in the muscles. The body's naturally going to want to do that because that's what it does. That's what muscles do. They hold tension. But when we're stretching, we want to let that tension go. Alright, and you might sit there for half an hour doing that, watching YouTube or listening to music with some incense burning, outside, looking at the trees, taking in the morning. That's what I do when I stretch. And you can do different variations of it. Feet up here, again the pole's there as your buddy, or legs out like this, and then you can go from side to side. If you form the habit of it, I'm telling you, it's a really super relaxing thing to do. Try to do it uncaffeinated, because with caffeine in your system, you're probably not going to want to sit around stretching. I don't have caffeine at all, but my thinking is allowing for those that do. And I'm assuming if you have caffeine in your system, now when I stood up there, I pulled the front of that pelvis up. Shit, I'm telling you, it's like a little fucking spring there. It just, boom, I'm up. I've been struggling to stand up out of chairs and couches. So I must have had lower cross. The condition that I'm talking about, this whole video is about the condition called lower cross. My mouth's starting to get dry with all this damn talking. And I really am trying to go as quick as I can. I'm finishing now, except let me say this. This was the big one. Grabbing the front of the pelvis is going to help a big time when climbing the stairs too. When climbing stairs, try and visualize somebody grabbing your pelvis and pulling you up the stairs. But nobody's going to do that. They're battling to get up themselves. So what you got to do is do it yourself. Grab your pelvic bone with your stomach muscles, and remember, really your shoulders are the leverage point, I think. Well, they're the anchor at the very least, right? And the back and all that's attached to it. Shit, you could go on. I want to learn more about all this. But anyway, when you're walking upstairs, or even when you're walking in general, try and tense those stomach muscles, especially when you're going upstairs. And I think you'll find that it's a real help along up the stairs. And tensing the stomach muscles when we walk also gives us better manipulation and maneuverability when we're walking. If your stomach muscles aren't tensed when we walk, little scenario I was going to show you with the water there, but I won't do it. If we're not activating stomach muscles, we would tend to walk more heavily and what's the word, grudging along, because we don't have any control of the front of the pelvis. And I've done it. I've turned the stomach off, and the walking process is more, we're coming, Dale, the walking process is more heavily forward and more uncontrolled, whereas if we tense the stomach, it's almost like you feel like a bit of a dancer, and your feet have a lighter step, which equates to better maneuverability and less possibility of falling over, because you're sort of like a puppet on a string, compared to do some little scenarios. Turn your stomach muscles off and walk, and to exaggerate it, lean forward with your stomach muscles right off and walk, and notice how your walking is. Then tense your stomach muscles. If you tense your stomach muscles, just your stomach muscles, I did it then, my whole torso just came up. And then overdo it, and suddenly you're leaning backwards, but your feet become super light. Our goal is to find that in between, that sensible in between, and to be conscious of it and know why we're doing it. All right, guys, that definitely is it. There is other stuff, and I could ramble on. I've tried to include all the important points. I'm honestly only doing this out of wanting to help and share information. There's no other reason, is there? Nice to have a chat as well, I guess. But it's important to share this sort of information. I think it's really important. And that's it. All right, come on. So thanks for listening, if anybody did. And like I say, the next vlog is going to be about living with a positive mindset and trying to milk the most out of life in a simple, healthy mindset manner. All right, so that's what the next one will be about, I think. I've got some little ideas on that too. So, all right. Peace and love out, everybody. And like I say, thanks for listening. And hopefully I'll see you next time.